the Clyde Winters. And on their name, put some respect. Yeah, yeah. I think it's time for reality check. Yeah, reality check. Gotta get you back on cold. Reality check. For the young and the old. Reality check. Yeah, the heal your soul. Reality check. Get ready for the show.
Hey, what's going on, Dr. Winters?
Everything is copacetic. Everything is just fine. It's fine. You know, today's been kind of a weird day. I love your hairstyle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It has been a day, and remember, I told you every time I give you a topic, something's going to happen, and then we're gonna have a wonderful
What
reality
happened?
check. Well, it's just human. You titled tonight "Human Lessons," and life lessons, human lessons, things that we're supposed to be learning or have learned. You know, this year for me, or at least the next 12 months or so, or indefinitely, starting January of 2025, unlearn and relearn as a forte. And then from there, maybe we'll get to our destination a little bit quicker. But um you said today's been a weird day for you. Today was
Yeah.
a weird day for me. I wonder, is it the moon? Because last night the moon was so big
Big
and
and beautiful.
orange. It was really cool, but
Yeah.
man,
No,
things happen.
today I did a show with Sonetta, and we can't find it. It was a 2 hour show and we can't find it. So it's in the ether. It's in the ether. You know, it's like hell. You know, it's like heaven. Heaven is 2 feet above ground. 2 feet above ground, but I can't see it. I can't find it.
Yeah,
Come on now. It's
man,
only 2 feet above ground. Damn. Let me find it.
I'm
Let me come on board.
can I get there? It's like a I don't know if you ever watched Harry Potter. I wasn't a Harry Potter fanatic like
Mhm.
how some people in my generation and younger than me are. But there was at least one thing that I remember is when you go to the school, you go to a train stop, but the train stop is like a half stop. You can't really see it. You can only see it if it's meant for you to see it. And then, well, then the train shows up and then you can get on the train at the half stop that nobody else knows about or can see, but you can see it.
That's weird because I remember, my son. You know, he had to go back to the doctor. He had an his appendix burst. You know, so we had to take him to our Children's Memorial Hospital. So one night we was coming home, and so we got on the train, and so it was it's the what we call the L train in Chicago, and uh, and so when we got on the L train, all of a sudden the L train started making stops. It started making stops when no stops existed,
Oh
and
no.
all these people got on the train, and they filled the train up. They filled the train up, and so then all of a sudden it was a stop. Cringe. And so then and so then so everybody, so a lot of people ran to the front except for Diane, my wife. She said, "Class, sit down. Everybody, you get on that side. Y'all get on that side. We'll sit over here." And so, and I didn't know that we was on the edge of the tracks. We could have fell off. And so then, so the train was full of people, and all of a sudden, these people started coming to talk to us to walk to the other train. But I knew in a sense they couldn't have walked us because the train was packed.
Mm.
There was no way they could have got through the people. And then I went to the door. And then I looked out. I looked out the door. You know where you walk between the train cars. So I
Yeah.
looked and walked. I looked at that. Then I came back, and so then they said move, and so we didn't move, and so eventually they came, and so it was some people from the those Spanish people who's supposed to be the guards. I forgot
Mm-hmm.
what they call them. You know, they're trying to start back up. So they said, y'all go to the other side. My wife said, no, sit down. And so then, and so finally, in a sense, the train, they came and they put us back on the track, and then they got us off. They walked us off the train. But then all the people that had got on the train with us, they had disappeared. They had disappeared. Every now and then a train in Chicago, just they had one just a few months ago. It operates on its own.
That's crazy because Chicago is the land of the black on black crime thing, right? Like anytime anybody wants to use us derogatively or in a derogatory manner, they always cite Chicago. So if y'all are having ghost trains, then maybe that's who's murdering these black people. Like it can't be other blacks because y'all would have caught them by now, right? Y'all got all these cameras and stuff.
I mean, what gangbang is gonna shoot an old lady or a kid? Get out of here. I think they just come up here for hunting season around the holidays. Some white people, because they got those masks now that you can pull over your face.
Yeah, those masks are very, 10, 15, 20 years ago, people were saying that, no, they've got masks. And then people are going to Party City and it's like, no, these masks, you would never think. But I thought about it then. And I mean, I'm not as, I was a lot younger then. But even then, in the dark, it doesn't really matter what you have on as long as it's not like a monster. If it's a dark color, well, now it's a black person. You paint your hands. It's funny, but it's not funny. I'm going to see if I pull it up. But people are doing, I said it's funny, but it's not like funny, but it's kind of funny. They're doing this blackface thing, but they're doing their whole body black. And then they're in the dark. And essentially there's somebody else in the room that doesn't know that they're in the room. And then they'll like open their eyes and smile so you can see eyes and teeth. And it'll really freak the other person out. And
these are white people, aren't they?
Always white people. And I'm like, at first offended, and then not offended because it's kind of funny just how scared they get. Because I think I told you the other day, they're not afraid of anything but us. I mean, you can find them snorkeling with orcas, cuddled up with an anaconda,
jellyfish.
Yeah, it's so strange that you would just be comfortable with these animals that are dangerous, but then a black man walking down the street makes you clutch your purse and lock your door. I lock my door when they walk down the street because I don't know what the hell they're about to get into. This lady today, it must have surprised her, but just the way she was walking past the car and it was dark. Yeah, I hit the thing like that, and I wanted her to see me hit it, and she and I'm like, how does it feel? I bet you never thought you'd feel that. I'm glad I could do that for you.
Yeah, you didn't do that, did you, Eve?
I did that today.
Family, that's just Eve.
It's just me. No, you guys, y'all be nice to people. Don't make them feel uncomfortable around you. But damn, I'm tired of feeling uncomfortable and then like having to deal with it, and then everybody else just kind of gets to they get to live their life uncompromisingly, not having to worry about things. So,
but what they used to say when I was a kid, white and 21 or something. In other words, when a white woman get 21, she can do whatever she want to do. They never said white man or anybody, but when a white woman get 21, she's supposed to be able to have the world as her orchid. She can do whatever she wishes. She can just make it just start popping, But it's really interesting that it's a lot of lessons that we have to learn, and I think one of the biggest lessons that I think is going to be part of 2025 is somehow do you know that a lot of people have been contacting me because there's a lot of people are upset about the word Pan-Africanism. It's weird. What do
you mean? Like they're saying, like, are they asking if you're a Pan-African, or how do you feel about Pan-African, or what are they?
They're trying to say that Pan-Africanist is out to get them. these are a lot of tethers and other Pan-Africanists out to get them. And they don't know what to really do, because see, what is a Pan-Africanist? And then some are saying, what is a Pan-Africanist? I don't know what a Pan-Africanist is. And so it's this whole idea of Pan-Africanists, and because a lot of people are afraid, they're afraid that they're going to have to really do that unity thing. I mean, a lot of people from the motherland and from the Caribbean, yeah, they talk a lot of that stuff, but they don't really want to be unified. They don't really want to, in a sense, have to walk that walk and talk that talk. And that's what Pan-Africanism would demand. And so one of the lessons that they're getting out of life is that we had to move away from talking about Pan-Africanism, because these Black people really expect me to be a Pan-Africanist. When it's like that sister said, she said, I'm over here to take. I'm not over here to build.
Right. That's right. That's very interesting. People say a hit dog hollers. And, I always was like, what? Why is that the saying? I mean, obviously, if you hit a dog, it's going to yelp or something, but then maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I grew up with cats and dogs. So, you might step on a tail or something, and then you didn't know it was there. And then it's here. Right. And it's like, oh, I didn't mean to do anyway. But sometimes people, they tell on themselves in the worst ways, even though they have no idea. And then it's like, well, now that you've told me the truth, I should be able to handle you accordingly. But then people are getting very offended that we're handling things appropriately now.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we know the truth and we're acting like, okay, well, thank you for telling me. I guess I'm a little upset that we've had to get here, but now that we're in the land of honesty, let's just move honestly. But they're like, wait a minute, no, actually, that's not. No, that's no. It was only a boat stop. We all got dropped off on a boat, and since it's all the same boat that we all came off of, then it should be for all for one.
But the only problem is this: is that after 1776, there was no Atlantic slave trade. So and because in a sense, and by 1818, the Atlantic slave trade was outlawed. So then the vast majority of FBA could not have come on boats. So some of them are not our cousins. I'm sorry to say. Some of them are not our cousins, but I believe everybody should be a cousin. And we can be kissing cousins. How, like when I was growing up, in the hood back in the day, oh, that's my cousin. Shit, that ain't your cousin, but that's my cousin. Everybody was cousin, uncle, and auntie, and it was kind of cool in a way. And I think people meant it back then. They moved away from that. The more money we got, the more opportunity, the more we were able, in a sense, to move away from our neighbors. It made people, in a sense, not want to communicate, not want to talk. And that auntie and cousin stuff, it kind of died out, and they didn't have that. They didn't have, in a sense, those feelings of community, those feelings, in a sense, of unity of purpose.
It's funny you say that, because we've always had family reunions as far back as I can remember. I mean, for the less than 4 decades I've been on this planet, we've had family reunions. And then now you'll see people having like family gatherings. You'll see other groups of people trying to emphasize this family unit. And I feel like it's a little phony, because maybe there's a reason why you would have a family reunion, not just to keep in touch and stuff, right? But I don't know, when you said kissing cousins, it made me think of my eldest auntie, who she started our genealogy or our lineage paperwork, and just really finding out who we were on paper and finding all the censuses records and such. But who are their people? When people start dating, do you know their family? Do you know their mom and dad? What's their last name? Questions that people feel like probably are basic information, but there might have been a reason, especially when you come from where I come from, which is the land of the breeding. And like you just said, after 1776, well, we had to get them from somewhere. Let's just make some more. Well, how did you make some more? Thomas Jefferson's only fucking 10, maybe, so I don't know. Maybe he's doing more than that. But it's not like all these white men were the bastard daddies of, the bastard baby makers, right? They're making us do it to each other. And then.
But it was certain groups like, a lot back when I was growing up, a lot of people from Kentucky and Maryland. Kentucky, Maryland, West Virginia, a lot of them had a lot of incest. A lot of them, uncles, cousins, brothers, mothers, brothers, they was all having sex with each other, fathers. It was weird, It's not so much miscegenation now as it was back in the day, but it was popular. I think a lot of it came from the fact that Maryland, West Virginia, Kentucky, those were kind of, slave breeding states. And so maybe it became cultural practice of many of the people that they did that stuff, And I remember when I was younger, a lot of people from those states, they didn't even think it was peculiar to be having sex with your cousin or your uncle or whatever,
And that's insane because, I'm from there, right? And I don't know that that's anything that we grew up with or around as much as there were some white kids that we went to school with, and they talked about how they would practice with each other. And I don't mean practice sex, but like practice kissing, and they'd have sleepovers and, practice different things with cousins. And I always thought kissing cousins in West Virginia was white people, straight up and down, as far back as I can remember. Nah. And then, well, now you unlearn, relearn, unlearn and relearn. It's like, well, maybe it's a little bit different. I've seen some statistics about like Baltimore incest rates, like you were talking about, and just it's really afflicted. Trying to use other words that aren't curse words.
But it wasn't. It wasn't. It was known. It was known, and people, in a sense, practiced those cultures. It was ingrained in them, and I think, in a sense, is that a lot of things back in the day, a lot of things they used to tell you, you're not supposed to tell this part of the culture, client. You're not supposed to tell this part of the culture. With certain things we were supposed to be hiding from white folks, but the white folks probably knew already. But we were trying to hide from them these what we consider to be negative or degrading things, and yet these things may have been very popular among certain peoples and certain groups. Then by about what? By about the 70s, by the 70s, mid 70s, a lot of people became more ashamed. They wouldn't talk about that stuff, that incest. It wasn't so popular by the mid 70s, but it was up until the mid 70s. Because I know when I went to college, I met people from those states, and they kind of, it was kind of different,
That's well, I guess if there is a lesson to be learned there, it would be to always talk with your family, because sometimes them stories that you shy away from or try to not talk about, they come back in a very weird way, and then you're dealing with something that has been skipped over 2 generations because nobody wanted to talk about it. And it's like, well, damn, I didn't know that I had a history of this, and maybe this is why I'm acting like this. I was reading a post on Instagram earlier about some documentary about Diddy on Peacock. So I don't know if it's a valid, credible, I have no clue about its authentication. What I was reading, though, it was about Diddy's mom and how he grew up. And it was sounding like, when you're around certain things and certain behaviors, then when you grow up, you might just do what you saw. And children are sponges. They absorb everything around them, and then they get to be an adult. If they get to be an adult and they say, okay, that worked, that didn't work, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, especially if there's no guidance. And I'm just wondering if it's just the company you keep, where you are. And then again, that talking with our family about maybe the uncomfortable things that might help us deal with some things.
I don't know, because I grew up in a weird environment. in the sense that I grew up in a light skinned folk environment. I'll put it like that. So my grandmother on the winner's side, they's all light skinned. You know, my father even had gray eyes, all that type of shit. Okay. But then my mother, she was on the dark side, and my grandmother always said, "Oh, they had a terrible life, Clyde, a terrible life. Oh, just so terrible." And so then I had this dichotomy of I had the Choctaw on my mama's side, a little bit probably on my father's side too. And it was this dichotomy. It was a color dichotomy. And so even growing up, half of the kids are light skinned, half of the kids are dark. You know, I said, "Hey, you whiteies and blackies." You know, I was even light skinned, and then the smarter I got, the darker I got. And so I lost that light skinnedness. You can't have light skin. You have to be skinned.
It's light skinned. Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
And so then it was this whole dichotomy. And so then you grew up looking at people, and you grew up thinking about it. You know, you go to family reunions and then they bring out all the pictures, and you know, ain't nobody else, no other picture from the 1800s except the half white winners. That's the picture that they got to show you at the family reunion back when I was younger. You know, no other pictures of any of the other winters, but they had the light skin one. See, that's what you know, y'all got to be careful. You know, Clyde, you gotta make sure, in a sense, you know, that you don't darken the race. And you gotta watch your wife and all that. And so I disappointed him. I wasn't like my cousins. I went and found a beautiful sister. I just went all pretty. If you was pretty, I liked it. You know, light or dark. But so then I disappointed him. But hey, that's the whole point. And I think it's a lot of colorism still today, even though they try to pretend it's not. It's a lot of colorism.
Oh yeah, it's definitely colorism. I mean, it's funny because it's not funny. But Dorabelle, you're talking about trauma bonding in the chat, and you're trying to remove trauma bonding from your life. And I find that is how we've been able to kind of deal sometimes. Now we have a word for it or a phrase for it, trauma bonding. But before then, you know, this is going to sound very ignorant, but well, y'all know that I'm a little outspoken, and I've told y'all about the times that I've had my mouth washed out with soap. But you know, our parents were not afraid of whooping us. You know, if we deserved a whooping. And then if you didn't know who did it, everybody got a whooping, right? So then, you know, it's just like trauma bonding.
Yeah.
All of us who got whooping sometimes, you know, especially in our very big ages, we laugh about that shit now. And I think
why did we do that? I did that as a parent. Why did I do that? Why you know, but then at the same time, you know, my mother and them, they was always talking about, you can't tell white folks nothing. You better not tell white folks nothing. And in a way, they didn't want you to be a squealer on your brothers and sisters either. They would whip your ass, but they didn't want you to be a squealer. And a lot of times you hear these people that didn't grow up in the black community or they grow up outside. They'll say, yes, you know, in the black community, there's this or there's that. No. A lot of that is internal shit. A lot of that stuff is, you know, they talk about, you know, that gangbangers don't snitch. Nobody snitched. You know, and that's just the way it was. You know, you didn't snitch, and your parents, they would in a way almost encourage you by whipping your ass if you told them. You know, like I remember I went in, I said, yeah, Marianne, that was my sister. I said, Marianne, she was fucking up. I didn't say that. I would have got my butt whooped. I said, Marianne, she was acting up, and I brought my mother a switch to whip her with. Real nice. Green switch. And so my mother said, "Oh, she did. I'm gonna take care of Marianne." And so she would always take the switch and put it on top of the refrigerator. And then she would wait and whip. And when I got in trouble, she would whip my ass with the damn switch. Wait, Mama, what is this? I brought the switch for Marianne. I brought it for Marianne. you were supposed to whoop Marianne with the switch. How did I get the whooping with the switch? But she was trying to teach you don't tell on your brothers and sisters. You don't snitch.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a lesson. And it's something that can save your life, save our lives. We have this tragic flaw of talking too much because we know so much. And I say we because I'm including myself in this population of people who talk too much. I'm trying to talk less, say a lot in little words. It's a task though. But inside of people talking too much, yeah, we do have a culture of not snitching because,
Right.
well, what is it getting me? I feel like if it's not gonna benefit me, and then even if it does, we're taking another consideration, like, is it gonna hurt somebody else? Like, what are the factors involved? So when your family's got to stick together, because outside of this house, they don't fuck with any of y'all. Y'all better be cool with each other. You better watch out for each other. You can't put anybody above your family. You miss that lesson, and then your children are out in the streets, and then they know that their brother or sister's doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and they're not talking to you about it because they miss the lesson. You do tell, but you don't tell. There's some things you tell about, and then some things you
like one of my sons when he got 20. So what are you smiling about, man? He said, "Ha, you didn't even know." It used to be a train that was stopping in the back of the house, and I would always tell the kids, avoid that train because you might get hit with it. We had a fence, but you could easily climb the fence where there was a gate to go. So he said, one day he got in his 20s. Okay, I used to go and jump on that train in the backyard. I said, I wish I would have known I would whip your ass. But now I know it's too late.
That's and he thinks he thought he was doing something. That's funny. Well, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's kind of like a trauma bond experience because, we're going back to something that, we want to address in a way that, we can kind of connect or have a memory of. You thought you were big and bad as daddy saying, no, you're not going to do this. And then your son growing into his britches is like, I'm going to get on that train. And then, oh yeah, he got on that train and then nothing happened. And that's good because damn it, what if something had happened? And then this be a whole other type of story, right? But then, I think that he'll use that. Does he have children?
Yeah, he has children now, but that was a long time ago. But he probably wouldn't want his kids, let me see his daughter.
He would use that story to tell them that they shouldn't do it, even though, and I'm not saying that he did do this, but at least this is how I am. I use my punishments and discipline as a life lesson. Like, look, yeah, you can do this, but then I've done that. And let me tell you how it didn't work like I thought it was going to work. Well, maybe you're smarter than me. Go ahead.
The strange thing is interesting is that my daughter, she has sons, but then my sons, they mainly have daughters. Only one of my sons has, only one of my sons has a son. The rest of them all have mainly daughters. It was kind of interesting, not a girl.
You know what they say about that though, right?
What's that?
They say when a man has a bunch of girls, it's because they need a life lesson on how to treat women.
Oh, really? Maybe I did. Maybe I did raise a lot of chauvinist pigs. That's it. No, I like that idea. I like that. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it was. I made them all chauvinist pigs, and as a result, in a sense, the women that they married, they couldn't do it. But it was another thing. It was another thing they used to say when I was growing up, and I'm not going to mention that. But again, that's just one of those things. You have so many wives' tales in terms of what you should do and how the family should be this or what the man should do and how you make the girls, how you make the boys. Everybody had a conversation, When
I think that, well, see, those there are some things that I think need to be monoliths. If you don't have certain pillars, certain traditions, then you're going to lose yourself. Not you might lose yourself, you're going to. And then are you ready for the person that you're going to become? Because let's just say you make it. Like, congratulations, you made it to 50 at this new type of person. You've got no preparation for this. Your foundation's gone. You're not ready. And then damn, if you've got children, you're breeding people who are not ready, and that's not fair to the rest of us. But your parents said that, boys can wear nail polish and girls can take out the trash or something. I don't know. We've got gender roles here, but then we also encourage them to learn as much as they want to learn. Like, they have requirements, and then extra learning if you want to, and then the things that you're interested in. But boys take out the trash, the girls are doing the food and the house
they
stuff.
make you ashamed. Nowadays society, they don't want you to do that with your kids. I mean, I look at these people and they're talking about what is it, gender blocking drugs that they want to give their kids and all that. And then when the kid gets grown, I want to have a baby. I want my genitals back. I want my breasts back. Now I'm sorry. That's why, like they said, a lot of this should be done at 18, I think. Instead of all of this stuff, because I remember it's just kind of weird. It's very weird. I always felt that I didn't want to put. I always wanted my children. They already had a big burden to me being black. Being black, you have a big burden because the fact is this to me is that you got the European always trying to hold you back. You got white people always trying to discriminate against you. So I just felt that was the hardest thing. Instead of trying to be gay or transgender, I thought that was just too much, And why would you want to burden yourself with that? That's what I felt growing up.
But that's back when you were growing up, there wasn't this emphasis on the reward for being anything other than black. Like, yeah, you're black, but you get a trinket if you're gay. You get a trinket if you emphasize your gender. But now you don't have to have a gender. We're back to slave times. We've been degendered, and that's
but what made it so weird is that a lot of the white teenagers, they moved away from even genders and they started wanting to be animals. Get the hell out of here.
Robots.
Yeah, I'm an animal.
Yeah, it's
I'm a rabbit, and they really believe that. I don't know. I'm weird, because see, before I retired, I went back to work in 2019 or something. I was teaching at a suburban school, something like that, and so then then you had to remember to call them by whatever name they want to be called, and and you're looking at them. Hey, that's a guy right there. But you had to call them by whatever the hell name they tell you that they want to say. Let's look at what some of the people in the chat are saying. Dora Bell said there's a difference between discipline and abuse. That's true. And but just tell me the difference. Crazy so far said my cousin got a whomping by his mom for playing with fire around me once when I was a kid. That cousin then got mad at me after she was done with him. He had a lot of trauma and was disobedient. Some people just like to be disobedient, and it's just very difficult. Now, let me see what else Jose said. Corporal punishment is a tool like any other. Proper discipline is no different than Pavlov's dog experiment. I'm not calling people animals. I'm just saying punishment reward is a teaching tool. Not really. I think that most parents, in a sense, they don't, you really don't enjoy, spanking your kid. I remember when my kids got older, someone would say, Pops, my oldest son, Pops used to whoop me a lot. I said, I sure in the hell did, because your brothers was looking at you and I wanted them to learn from you getting your ass whooped.
Definitely gotta have an example.
I'm sorry.
It's one of them's gonna have to get it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry, but you were the oldest, and I love the hell out of you. But I had to do this. And then a lot of times, then they would say, I got a lot of whoopings. I was at work all day. My wife didn't work. I was at work all day. How did I know that you act up? How did I know to whip your ass when I got home? How did I know? I wasn't there. But no, Mom is saint. Mom is a saint. Mom is
Mom
mom,
is a
mom
saint,
she is a saint. But
obviously.
but I'm doing the whooping, and I don't. Somebody had to tell me that you did something wrong. Somebody had to tell me that I should lay hands on you, or really a belt. But I used to have a belt or a paddle. They get maybe 2 or 3 licks. I wouldn't give them a lot, no real big whoopings and stuff. Then my oldest son, he was funny. I know, his wife listens. She likes you, Eve. And so my oldest son, his wife always listens to you. My oldest son, he used to try to put stuff in his pants, and so I whip him on his leg and stuff.
That is,
You're supposed to whip me on my butt. No, I can see it. I can see it.
as my parents, when we tried that, they let us think that we were doing something, and then they told us to remove all of the layers down to the no layers, and then damn, it's like shit. We thought we were doing something. I shared something for us in the. Do you see it?
Let me see. I'll bring it up. What you want to get in the mud for? What? What? Wow.
Like, I'm sorry. Yes, we are in a very weird time because somebody likes that. There's no way for her to be doing that, and nobody likes that. She didn't do that because nobody likes that. She's
and it's some brother who would be happy to marry her. Well, there's some brother out there looking, especially if he's an immigrant, looking for that. These brothers from Britain. So Dr. Winters, we'd like to join your show, but you have to stop that. You have to stop a lot of that shit about we can't be with the white girls. You have to stop that. Stop it, Dr. Winters. Stop getting in our business. We have to have the white girls to take care of us. Get out of here. Get a job. And but that's how people feel. I remember at least nowadays when I was growing up. A brother would get the fattest or the ugliest white girl they could find. Some they had a white girl. At least now they get white girls who, if they, get nice looking white girls and stuff. So, it's kind of improved a lot.
It's well, I'm glad you said that. Well, it's improved. I don't know. I think that we are in a very weird time where maybe back in the day people used to have diaries and journals. And maybe they told their journal or diary their deepest dark secret.
Ever cheated before? Not with another human. What do you mean? I cheated on my boyfriend with his dog. It was a golden retriever. I mean, how did your boyfriend find out? He opened the door and I was in the doggy position. Ever cheated before?
What?
She told that to somebody. I mean, like that wasn't. We didn't break into her diary and read that. She's on camera telling, and then she's not even one of the butterface ones. She doesn't look like she would be having sex with dogs. But then maybe is there no look? I don't know. Maybe we can't tell anymore.
There is no look. There is no look. But I mean, it's weird. I mean that is a weird confession. But again, it's
Black Lyric. Look, I am not trying to traumatize y'all tonight as much as the lesson. Dr. Winters taught me a lesson about some of this stuff when you told me why we have so many laws on the books about having relations with animals.
Animals, yes.
And then from there, it's like, I'd never thought about it. I have thought about it. And then you see like AI, or you see, that's not a real mermaid. And then it's like, okay. And then some things I've seen, and it's the way that these people have infatuations with these sheeps and goats. And then I've seen a goat person. I've seen a whole.
Haven't you ever noticed? How do you think they used to get those people for the freak shows back in the 1800s? and why they outlawed having sex with animals. Sometimes these animals would conceive children, or some female would conceive
Have a
a child that after being impregnated. I don't know how it works. I wouldn't. That wasn't me. But to me, it's just dangerous whenever you're involved in having these things go on, and they wouldn't have laws against it unless it was something that did occur.
Absolutely. Watch this.
In the moment, I'm living together with a German Shepherd bitch. For me, it is far easier to build an emotional relationship to an animal than to a human. And so for me, it's even easier to have some sexual context.
It's easier for him to have sex. Like I don't know. It's just the way that these people are so comfortable telling us this information. Like, first of all, I didn't even know that we were asking these questions, and then second of all, god damn, like y'all need to go back to the caves. Like, go back to the caves.
You know, when I was I once worked at a steel mill. This brother said, you don't know shit, Clyde. I said, okay. I said, I might not know you. Just because you college trained, I was working over the summer. Just because you went to college, you think you know anything. Have you ever had any good sex with a chicken? I said, get out of here. Yeah,
What?
That's the best with a chicken. That's the best sex you can have. I said, man, what did you country people do? I said, I grew up in Chicago. I wasn't on no damn farm.
Hell no. Oh
You
my
know.
god.
With the chicken.
That's sex. Oh my god.
They had
Go ahead.
They had a picture a few years ago where they had all these men sitting in chairs and the sheep in front of them, you know. So I mean, it's kind of bestiality. It's kind of common to them, but you had to understand in a sense is that's what you choose. To me, that's why I told you that a black person, a white person cannot love you if you're black because they can't respect you, you know, and because they can't respect you, they can't love you, and then. Because of the fact that they get into this weird stuff. I'm so happy. I am so happy, Eve, that I don't have to see. I'm so happy that I'm not the God figure, that I have to see everything that these people are doing on earth. I'm so happy not to be able to see all of the things, the way people treat each other, you know. Just like how a lot of people feel that they should have anal sex with little kids because that's going to make them have power. You know, I mean, it's crazy. People are crazy, but people, in a sense, become involved in these things, and they take having intercourse out of context. And at the same time, you know, they use it in a sense for more draconian things. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And yes, it's part of their culture, and yet to me, that's why I don't understand why some black people want to get into that culture and even go with their women or their men. I don't know. That's just me, you know.
It's well, I guess it's one of those life lessons. If your foundation is rocky or shaky or not sturdy, then any and everything else is gonna have a way in. I want to say it was something you had said a year ago or 2 years ago about, you know, the frequencies, you know, we're first frequency, and then which frequency are you plugged into, and are your thoughts your own? And then, well, maybe just being around certain people and certain things gives you thoughts that aren't your own, but then you're not around anybody that's making sense. So then you feel crazy if you're not participating in the foolishness.
Yeah, like Black Lyman said, sometimes the goat was all they had in the caves. That's kind of maybe, but the whole point is just remember in a sense. Remember back in the day, in some situations, the Europeans, they would have one woman, and every man would be able, in a sense, to have sex with her because that was just a communal thing. So their culture is complicated. You know, Diop years ago when he did his book on he did a lot of information on that, and you know, you don't want to look at the devious side of Europeans and Caucasians, and that's the beauty. See, that's the beauty of today. The beauty of the day is that nobody on YouTube is really talking about white culture.
They're not. It's is it what's that book I have? Marimba Ani has a book. It's like 1 billion pages, and I can't think of what you
It's okay, but she doesn't go into that psychology. The book that is going to always mainly be the one in her college, Frances Welsing, that little book. That is the book that really goes into that psychology, goes into that whole idea, little balls, big balls, you know.
Yes, definitely. And then you got black balls and white pins, and all they do is think about sex. And well, look at what I just shared for you right there, if you can see it. Mom who had sex with Pitbull, then hanged her 2 children with dog leash. I guess that's her new look at the murder trial. And this is from September of last year. So
she did what?
I guess, and I'm trying to figure out why the children get killed, but maybe they walked in on her doing it with the dog or something. I'm not sure, but there's so many stories. And when I say so many stories, I mean so many stories of people that don't share our lineage abusing.
Look at that poor dog. Look at that poor dog. She abused me. Look at the poor dog. The poor dog is showing how he was abused.
Right? He doesn't look happy. And that German Shepherd that the other guy was talking about, he called it a bitch. That bitch didn't look happy to be there either. And sometimes animals, you know, they do the thing that children do when they're super duper honest about life, and then, you know, people ignore the animal, but it's like, maybe you shouldn't have ignored the animal. Like if an animal that's not normally violent does something to its owner, and then everybody's like, why did that happen? It's like, well, maybe they was fucking the animal or something. I don't know. There was another one that I wanted to show you, but
like one day I stepped on one of my dog, or one of my wife's dogs or cats. And then the dog bit me, and then I kind of just instinctively kind of slapped him, and my daughter and wife got so mad. Why did you slap that kid? Why did you slap him? You stepped on her tail. I said I didn't mean to step on her tail, but she bit me. You know. So, you mean old man. He's a mean old man, Jetty. He's a mean old man. Yeah, I don't know.
That was a dog or was a cat? What'd you say?
It was a dog, a puppy.
Dog.
You know, when my wife died, we had 3 dogs. My wife died. They all said, "Shit, I'm leaving you, man."
Oh man. Oh.
Whoop.
That's crazy.
They said we go with mama.
Yeah, well, yeah, they do. They attach to their human, and then, then you wonder why some animals are so attached to some humans, and I mean, I get it. White people treat their animals better than they treat us, but then still like an animal. It's very strange.
But
go ahead.
But you know, it's like what I saw on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, and it said, "This is how we kept our dogs." And you know, the dog was outside freezing in the cold. Yeah, they kept him in a cage outside or in a fence. Now the dog is in your house. The dog can get on your bed, your couch. You know, play. You know. When I was growing up, hell, you could go over your grandmama's house. You did not sit on her bed. But now you go to people's houses. The cats, the dogs are on the bed, and you better not tell your wife that the cat or dog can't be there. So it's very complicated. Very complicated.
It is. I think that's us, you know, being around them for too long. it's strange because the experiments of a couple years ago, the people who didn't participate in said experiments, as a woman, I find that my cycle's never been the same ever since lots of people around me started experimenting on themselves. And then it's very weird that I could have any sort of affects from people who I'm around as much as, this is my conspiracy. This is conspiracy talk, you guys. I'm just Eve. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. Hey, Marie.
Hi, how are you guys?
Fine. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How's your evening going?
Fine. Eve tells me that you're a provocateur, so I wanted a provocateur to join us. Somebody who could really add in a sense some spice. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. I was cleaning. I am in the middle of cleaning the house. And I was like, let me pop in and just see what they have going on. See if there's something interesting I can jump on.
Well, this has been such a week for us. And then we couldn't go live last night and then couldn't go live earlier. But then
why couldn't you go live last night?
Well, I guess we had just planned it bad, or I was thinking that Marie wasn't going to be up for it. And then I planned for something else and then just plans. But then today plans, and I didn't get home until way late. So adding into my crazy day. Did you have a crazy day?
Mine was, I was off. I had my procedure this week, but I honestly thought that. So I knew you had your show today. That's why I was like, well, I don't have any other day because I knew that you were already doing your broadcast today, which I can't believe I called it a broadcast, but yeah.
What do you think? What do you think, Marie, are human lessons? It can be a lesson in a sense that in terms of something that should maybe be a standard that you can live by. What do you see? What do you see as human lessons? What do you see as lessons that we should take from 2025 after 2024? Because I feel this is going to be my year.
Oh, it's definitely your year. I shared what we were going to talk about on the bottom. We can pull it up. But it's definitely, I think, something that adds to the human lessons, life lessons conversation. Marie had posted this the other day about parents feeling defensive or attacked when they're asked to take accountability. And, it's a lot of comments up there. And I know that me and you talk about this. We kind of touched on it earlier, talking about your son who, well, not earlier today, but your cookie stealer. When your child starts talking about things and then really, oh my gosh, you were such a but you beat me all the time. And it's like, did I beat you all the time, or did it go a little, are you remembering that the right way? And I think that there's a lesson sometimes.
But my sons do say they said that my second baby, my second son, he's been traumatized because I wouldn't let him hit the cookies in the can, and they had to wait too. But it's just that each child interprets their life, or they interpret their situation, their situation and experience is so different from other children. And that's the thing that makes it very difficult and very hard as a parent. It's very hard in a sense to know what allows you to do the right thing. What is the right thing? How do you find out what the right thing is until later? You never know when you're raising your child. You never know in a sense when you're trying to discipline her. Discipline him, her, whatever. So the point is this: is that what allows you to be able to define what is perfect and what is not perfect? What do we do? What do we do? How can you be for real? How can you have a real existence? How can you really feel comfortable? Because see, to me as a parent, you feel so much guilt. I felt a lot of guilt because, I'm spanking people, and I don't even want to spank you, but your mama told me that I should whip your ass. and yet I get the negative consequences of that. That's not fair.
Marie, did your daughters get whoopings or spankings?
No, I don't. When I was younger, But as I got older, I kind of, I don't know, it goes back to like kind of like maybe wisdom or knowledge. Like, okay, so if I can't have a conversation with you, then how am I really getting through to you? And is me whooping your ass going to, because I'll be honest, say I know a lot of adults, like I'll be honest and say I probably gotten whooped a few times as a child, but just a few wasn't enough to, I couldn't say they were physically abusive. Verbally, it might have a case, but physically, no, I really didn't get hit much. But I was also raised by my dad. And he also felt too, if he couldn't talk to me, then that's the problem right there. Like we're not able to communicate. I can't see where you're coming from or vice versa. How am I going to get you to buy into the things I'm telling you? Because I don't believe as a parent, while one generation may have ruled with fear, I found that respect kind of went further. Because even as an adult, there's things now where I kind of frown upon, like, y'all did what? That's not, like, that's not do as I say. I grew up in a do as I say, not as I do household. But in hindsight, for me as a parent, I try to be the example. So do as I do. So if I tell you not to do something, it's because I'm not doing something. And the reason I'm telling you, I'm not trying to prevent you from having fun or enjoying yourself. There's a reason I'm trying to protect you from something. And then I'll take them down the road of what I'm protecting them from, because I need to gain their buy-in. I need them to want, like, feel like even whatever decision is, it's their idea too. Not just something, well, I'm just doing it because my parents or because then too, when you get out of my sight, what you going to do?
That's very true, because we talked about that earlier, once they're at their very big age, they'll take what worked and then toss what didn't work. And then if it's something that they've been waiting to do, like, well, when you get out of this house, or when you pay your own bills, or when you give them some sort of timeline, and then they're holding on to that timeline. Well, once the timeline is over, they might go balls to the wall. They might go ham. A lot of people, not just girls, but a lot of people go ape shit when they get to college, because they've been holding and waiting for things that might not have been explained to them because they were just told no. And then now they're their own person. They can do what they want. And now, shit, your daughter comes home with 58 piercings and 22 tattoos, and you're like, oh shit, is their baby used to be in there too? Like, what else are we missing? I don't know. I like that you like to talk to them. Dr. Winters is older than us, so a little bit different generation, but well, I think I'm right in the middle. You might get a whooping. It just kind of depends on.
But I had but since I was married, I had my wife, and so we had our orders. I always felt that my daughter should be disciplined by my wife, so she didn't hardly get any damn whoopings. She should have got more. But anyway, I always felt that my daughter, in a sense, I felt that my wife should discipline, because I felt that the most beautiful thing to me was a mother who could have who was friends with her daughter, and that is a beautiful thing when a mom and daughter can go out and have dinner, they can go out and have lunch, they can discuss things. And I think that that's what I really liked about seeing the relationship between my wife and my daughter, is that they had that type of relationship, But then again, when she died, though, my daughter, it was very hard for her to get over. It took her a couple of years and stuff. And but the thing is, it's I don't think she still is over it. But the main thing is
that anyways, especially because I think at a certain point too, a girl and her mother can actually become best friends.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. That's the beauty of it. See, it's hard.
And then you don't want it to be easier either, because then that would be a certain level of guilt too. Like I'm actually starting to feel like it's almost like being kind of like there's a duality. Like as much as I want to heal and not be in pain, I would assume too there's a party to too. It's like, well, I don't want to not be in pain, because like this is my mother, this is my best friend. So there's a certain level of grief, and grief comes in waves. But I think if anything, there's a part of you that doesn't want to forget her, even if it gets easier. And then you don't want it to get easier, because how dare it get easier? It's such a it's a double-edged sword almost.
Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy, because you'll hear the stigma that, girls, we go through that thing, right, where we might not be friends with mom because maybe mom's got a cycle, I've got a cycle, we all got battling emotions going on, and then whose house is this? Well, I live in her house, so I got to follow her rules. But man, she's being a bitch right now, and then hopefully y'all get over that. And like you said, best friends maybe. And I always try to think about that. Dr. Winters, you always say that you look at people's children like little adults because they are eventually going to be. And I like to think of it
not just that, but when I was teaching, a couple of times I taught elementary school, but I usually taught fifth through high school. And I was always amazed that I expected your 7-year-old to act like a little adult. But I didn't expect my 7-year-old and my grandchildren to be adults. I expected them to be little kids. But as a teacher, I expected that 7-year-old. I always felt that. To me, I felt that a kid gets cognition at 7. I think by 7 years old, a kid has cognition. What I mean by cognition is that they understand right and wrong. A friend of mine, Miss Poindexter, I loved the hell out of Miss Poindexter, and she died too young. But she taught 3rd grade, and she had 3 kids throughout her 20 years teaching that committed suicide. That were in 3rd grade, and I could never understand. Even though I know that by 8 years old a kid should understand a lot, I couldn't understand how these kids could be so emotionally overwhelmed at 8 years old to commit suicide. And this was before. This was even before this period. This was back in the 80s.
I think that suicide is a very heavy subject, but when a child does it, maybe they don't even really get that this is the end. And then if they do get that this is the end, then like you just said, what did that child go through to make them want to end it all? Like nothing's ever going to get better, and this is it.
I would almost think, to be honest with you, a child probably has a less experiences to pull from than an adult. So imagine I've only been on this earth 7 years. And this most traumatic, I don't have a lot of experiences of like, it's going to get better. It can get better. I think that's where some of that like falls into, is they don't know that like, this isn't that big of a deal. But in that moment, at 7, at 10, at 12, like this is, oh my God, this is the biggest deal in the world. Like this is, oh my goodness. They even talk about how even something maybe like divorce, or parents divorcing. While it seems like it's a big deal, then in hindsight, it's not. There are a lot of things that in that moment, or even moments where you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to get past this. And then you eventually do, and you look back, right? But at 40, I have more experience to pull from when I deal with hardship than I did at 12 or 15. I might think the world, like the sky is falling, and there's no coming back from that. And I think that even there are some adults that think like that too. But I would assume that when you decide to like kill yourself, the thought process is that like you don't think that there's anything else left, or like you've exhausted whatever it was, or you whatever. I feel like you felt like it was the end, right, as opposed to where it was something that could have been resolved or what have you. But we're actually seeing more of that in males.
You think so? I don't know, because I think back. I remember a couple of times my wife after I guess she went through postpartum depression or something, and I mean, she would say, damn, I want to kill a kid or something like that. And, she didn't ever kill him, but it looks like it's much more complicated in terms of trying to realize who you are, as a woman. I think it's a little bit more complicated in terms of trying to determine who you are, because the fact, in a sense, is that you don't have a real identity to me as a woman. And the reason I feel that you don't have a real identity as a woman is because the fact, in a sense, is that you had to play so many roles, in terms of with your family, mom, lover, parent, friend. You had to play so many roles, whereas as a man, in a sense, I can just do what the hell I want to do. I don't have to really. Yes.
I would think that it'd actually be the opposite, right? So as a woman, there aren't as many expectations on me. Yes, I have all these roles, right? But no one, like, there's like no rule book. But I would think, to me, for men, the expectation is that you should be a provider. You should be this. You should be strong. You should be tough. You should be a builder. You should blah, blah, blah. And all I really have to do is, like, for the most part, the expectations the world has of me is just smile and look pretty. Make sure
and you look pretty. Right.
Did you smile? Did you smile while you were doing all these other laborious tasks that I silently expect of you? So, too, yes, I think that it's fair to say there are all these things expected of a woman, but it's not stuff we really talk about. You just expected to do it. Like you're not doing the thing. But for a man, go ahead.
But again, in the sense is that you would expect that, but then in a sense, you'd also recognize that a real Black woman, because of the fact that she's had her life experiences, would understand in a sense that she would give a brother. Many women would give a brother a break in the sense that maybe he's having difficulty because of racism and all that type of stuff. Not everybody nowadays, but a lot of times they'll kind of overlook certain things. They'll overlook certain deficits. They'll overlook, in a sense, maybe some employment opportunities. For example, a lot of times, a brother might have difficulty holding on to a job, whereas this woman may be able to work, and the thing is that then she has to decide, am I going to kick him out or am I going to keep him? It's kind of very complicated, and
Curious to go back to that, but isn't that also kind of been the historic experience for African American men and women, where even there was a time when African American women were welcomed even in a white person's home to work for them, whether they're their nanny, the housekeeper, and that same, but the comfort of having a Black man, that's a whole different, it wasn't there. So there were times too that Black women were welcome in spaces that they didn't feel comfortable having Black men in. And so she still kind of assumed that role too, let's say 30, 40 years ago.
Of course. That's the whole point.
Right.
See, that's the urban experience. See, you wanted to say something before?
I was going to say, choosing each other in the midst of, all of the foolishness, that I think that's a power move. But, maybe sometimes people don't think of it like that because they think that this is all they can do. And however you slice it, Black people, Black Americans have been choosing each other overwhelmingly, but they want to push that, it's more mixtures and, we're past the racism and you can do what you want to do. I mean, I showed you the chick who wanted to be a pig or thought she was a pig.
I think there's an agenda, a divisive agenda. You know what I mean? Even too, when you think about it, whenever it's divisive content, like men, Black women against Black men and vice versa, whoever it is, one that gets the most shares, the most views, the most likes, you can monetize that. But there is an agenda, I think, to create that rift.
But see, here, this is where the rift is, because just like Jeffrey Henry says, the Black woman always worked because she wasn't seen as a threat. Not only that, in the sense is that you got to remember that was the entire urban experience. The entire urban experience for Black men has been the fact that your woman worked and rarely did you work. That's one of the reasons why the big H in the Black community was the hustle. Could you hustle?
Absolutely.
Did you have a hustle? Did you have some way to be able to do it? I didn't have to suffer from that because luckily, we burned down Chicago and they said, nigga, we're gonna let you go to college in action. So that's the only reason I got to college. Get out of here. I had good ACTs. I had a super SAT. I had all those good scores, but I wouldn't have got in college except for the fact that, they tried to burn down Chicago and they came and they said, we're going to get all the niggers and we're going to take them up there. And then, at that time, today, there's a big division among Puerto Ricans and Black. But see, back when I went to University of Illinois, it was a lot of Puerto Ricans and we were down, we were down because a lot of Puerto Ricans would say, hell, they be thinking I'm a nigga. So these were, they were kind of dark Puerto Ricans. So they said, hell, we got to be in it together. Today is kind of different. Today with what's his name, it's a lot of trouble. But back then, in a sense, they used to be despised because, see, a lot of times when the Colombians and all that were talking in Spanish against us, they would be able to translate. Yeah. So it was different. But I don't know. It's the European. It's like what Nellie Fuller said, is that they always play both sides, and the way they play both sides is that they allow us to fight each other, and then in a sense down the road, they allow you to get away with things. I call it the rubber band effect. They'll stretch the rubber band for one group or one person, and they'll pull that rubber band, and then in a sense, after a while, they'll always put you back into that condition where you began. You see, So you never really progress, you know.
That's fair.
I wanted to show you guys something. There it is. I don't know if y'all heard about this. Well, can't hear it because I don't have it unmuted, I don't think. But this was about the bullying thing that we were talking about. And oh, there's the unmute.
Unfortunately, words do hurt. They used to teach us sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never harm me.
I hate when it's just the music and then everybody has to read. But essentially, this 12-year-old girl was bullied to the point of no turning back, and she tried to kill herself. And then the bullies, they went to the ICU and mocked her, took video and pictures and mocked her. And I'm like,
what was her background?
How is that possible?
What was her background?
From South Carolina.
Was she FBA?
Kalia Turner. I'm not sure. I know that, well, especially now with us delineating, it's very interesting how people will talk about something that happened to them. You know, they might shy away from the racism aspect, or, you know, they might shy away from certain things because they don't see themselves as having to fight that fight as much as that might have been the reason that you're fighting the fight. But when I was reading the story, the teacher, it was like a white teacher, and the bullies, I don't want to say the teacher was participating, but she wasn't making it stop. You know, you've got the adult in the room, and kids just being kids, you can only use that for some things. After a while, it's not kids just being kids. And then, well, this little girl felt like she didn't have an out. 12 years old is not third grade. That's more like sixth grade. But still, I mean,
but you know, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard as a teacher to really protect your kids completely, because a lot of times, you know, you can be doing everything you can in the classroom. Sometimes they'll follow them home, harassing them, you know. Or
Right.
And I guess nowadays with Facebook, they can be even much more aggressive. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
And so then, because the fact, in a sense, is that there's it's a lot of fear out there. It's a lot of destruction. I remember when I substituted for a second grade classroom, because in my school, you know, they didn't want to pay the substitutes. So on your break, a lot of times they want you to go and sit in somebody's classroom. And so I'll never forget these. I was teaching in second grade, and how these girls, in a sense, they would stretch conformity, you know, and that you can't be so and so's friend, but you can be my friend. And I thought that was very very interesting to be taking place in a second grade classroom, because that was, in a sense, a way to put pressure on you, even at that early age, that you had to conform to a certain group to be able to be accepted, you know. So, but again, this whole idea with Ms. Poindexter and people committing suicide at 8 years old, it's kind of crazy to me, but I can understand in a way.
I don't know. I feel like I have so many questions. Like, even how did the kids get into the hospital room to take like, where are the adults?
It would be easy. I mean, don't you think they could just be bold? You know, most of the time, as you said, that is crazy, because, you know, when somebody's in the ICU, usually you had to be family.
Yeah, that's like.
And a lot of hospitals, I don't know where this took place at. I know a lot of hospitals, children can't even come up unless you're about to die.
Listen, and you need to be immediate family on some list or something. To me, it's just like, and even the idea that I don't even know, like, you know, it's one thing kids do something and they don't always think of the ramifications. But if the kids were to put her in that position, what type of, I guess my thought process, what kind of parenting or what's happening that, like, the kids don't, there's not some kind of, like, like even being mean, you should have like a limit or like, whoa, that was, I was never my intention or anything like that. And for you to find like make humor and something like that, I don't know. It seems kind of sick to me.
I don't know. I taught when I was teaching. I didn't see where kids ever had a limit. They didn't have a limit. Bullies never had limits to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
you try to fight them or something, then that's when they finally might
get some accurate.
Like when I think about, I remember I think I had someone telling me some story today. I was like, no, I remember being 5 and this girl telling me I wasn't invited to her birthday party, and that really hurt my feelings. And so I hit her, and I got suspended. And but I was like, she really hurt my feelings though. Because at 5, you telling me I can't come to your party really just it seemed hurtful. Like,
yeah, Reginald said, let's see what he said. He said, I think as a parent, it's up to you to check often, daily, to see if your child is being bullied. They should understand that getting bullied is not something you stay quiet about. It's interesting. It's interesting. But many of us work, and may not have the time. I know my oldest son, I used to sit him down when he's in high school. Once a week, I sit him in a chair and say, well, what's going on? And he'd say, why am I sitting in this chair, Pops? I say, what's going on at school?
Why am I here?
Why am I here? I said, I want you to tell me what's going on. And sometimes they tell you, sometimes they'll hide it. But I think it's easier when you're not by yourself. When you have children that are close in age, I think it's a little bit easier, because sometimes, the first child, if you're the oldest, you're going to have the problem because you had to make friends. And because you had to make friends, that means that you had to deal with people who are outside of that home, and you had to find some way to integrate into that community. And so I think that the oldest child suffers the most in terms of trying to grow up, but if they have a big brother, big sister, then sometimes in a sense, they're going to be shielded from a lot of problems. They may have to fight sometime, but often in a sense, they don't have as many problems as being the oldest.
That's a good point, because I never thought about the making friends aspect. The oldest is the entry, and then everybody else that comes through, you're so-and-so's brother, or you're so-and-so's sister. You already have your people already kind of know you, even if they've not
been hard though too. If you're not like, you don't fit them. My youngest used
to right.
Taylor's sister, and then Taylor's like studious, this, that, and at the time to me it was definitely not any of those things. It was there, just not being applied. And it was like they held her to a higher expectation. She's like, I don't need all that just because my sister skipped a grade, did all. Look, I'm here for a short time, like a good time, and for a short time, not a long time. I don't need her reputation following me.
Yeah. But
what you said about it being easier when it's not just you, I would agree. I think, Marie, you would agree. Your ex-husband was there, not like there, he's in the military, but still, it's a shared responsibility. And then, we're kind of existing in a time where people think that they can do it on their own. And I'm not saying that you can't do anything on your own, as much as should you do some things on your own? Like right now, if it takes 2 to tango, then are we really giving them the best start if we're not doing it together? Or, like everybody's an individual, sure, but don't we need each other for some things?
But it's harder today because back in the day, it was some adult at home. It was some adult.
Yeah, grandma.
Grandma.
She may not, granny ain't work or whatever, but she was there as adult in the house. They may not really been watching you, but they was in the house.
Yeah. But see, now a lot of times there's nobody there. And so then since there's nobody there, it's a lot more opportunity to lose yourself. And but again, I never did understand with Mitch. I really wish I would have asked her, why did those kids do that? But it's just that as I said, we see as a teacher, I saw a kid at 7 being an adult, but I didn't see my kids at 7 being an adult. I saw my kid at 7 being a kid, but when I was teaching your kid has to understand and have to do everything the correct way. They had to be able, in a sense, to manage things, be able to understand what's required of them and be able to get their studies done. And so then, but in my kid, then give him a break, don't be so hard on him, That's not fair, is it? It's crazy.
It's not. I don't know. I've always chuckled at that because I always, as an educator, not that children aren't children, but you are going to be an adult at some point, you know, if you make it there, and I really want you to make it there, but damn, you're going to be an asshole. Some of these children are already the adults that they're going to be. And it's like, oh no, I don't want to have to deal in a society where you're driving anything on the road because you don't pay attention to your surroundings at all. You're going to be a horrible driver. And not like you're judging them as much as you can kind of see it at all of our different ages, the people that we're dealing with at all of these different ages. Don't y'all see some childish behavior sometimes? Like, damn, wasn't that high school? Or did we ever grow up? Or do we not grow up? We kind of stay at that spot.
You said you actually unpacked a lot. If you think about it, I'm like, well, I was going to respond to your first part of your comment a long time ago. Growing up, how I grew up, what's the word I'm looking for? I try to look for context with everything when it comes to my daughters, her friends, or whatever. I'll say that even like COVID, I've seen a change in my kids just being isolated. My ex-husband wasn't able to port. Normally he could port during COVID. He could not port. He was out to sea the longest that boat has ever been out to sea without porting in history due to COVID. And I say that to say that my daughter felt so isolated that it did bring on the borderline of like almost suicidal. But I'll say that there was other variables going on where she was like discovering herself. Though I have a white mother, she was a little my daughter's lighter than me. And she didn't feel Black enough. So that was a thing. So it's like, she's trying to find her space. She talks white. That's what some of her peers said. She kind of like was going through a lot of things. And I think when you have.
What state were you on the East Coast or West Coast?
Texas.
Oh, you were in Texas. Okay. You know, most of the time when you're in the Navy, the ships are even leaving from.
Oh yeah. He's from Texas. We met in Washington State. I was in the reserves and he was active duty. I got out, he stayed in, and then all his family is here, where my family's military too, both my parents and all their families spread out. So I kind of chose here so my kids would have some type of grounding or roots because, you know, all of their dad's family lives here. And then that way he could see his family and see his kids simultaneously whenever he would go on leave.
I can dig it. It's kind of complicated. I don't know. I wasn't in the military. I wanted to join. I wanted to go. I was in ROTC. When I was in ROTC, I was ready. I wanted to go to Vietnam and get a BAR or a Browning automatic weapon, and I was going to be Rambo, baby.
Oh,
but then I fell in love. And then when I fell in love, then I got married, and then I don't think I want to go to Vietnam. I don't think I want to go. I think I want to be with my baby. But again, in a sense. Then I wanted to go and fight in Angola, you know. And, I was trying to go to Angola. And I said, damn, baby, I'm going to Angola. No, you cannot go to Angola, you know. But again, like I said, is that it's kind of interesting. It's kind of strong, you know, for you to be a person who could maybe join the military and be able, in a sense, to go through that process. A lot of discipline, a lot of sadness, I can imagine, too. You know, but at the same time, I guess it allowed you to grow. What do you think it provided you?
I feel like it gave me resilience and the ability to build my own family, my own support system, no matter where I go. Because even too, like when you're a lot of times, depending on where you're stationed, you can't just go, like you can't go have dinner with your family or go down the street. You know, if you're in Guam, Hawaii, Japan, that costs money for you. So you have to kind of make do with what you have. You have to create your own community, which I think that's allowed me. But I also know what it's like to be the only child, the only this, or the person that doesn't have any relatives somewhere, or where I grew up in a suburb outside of Chicago. It was like everybody.
What suburb?
Evanston.
Evanston's a crazy town. Because it's so much incest in Evanston. So
yeah, so everybody is related to everybody, but I was the one person that wasn't related to nobody. So
a lot of people don't.
Like my daddy's from my dad was raised in Buffalo, New York. Like my mom's from Oregon. So none of my people, but they all know each other. They went to the same high school. They went to the same junior high, college, like, or not necessarily college, but they all know each other. Like, that's such and such cousin. This is that, because the Black community is small there.
It's so much incest, because I had worked at Family Focus out in Evanston, and
I know exactly where that is.
And those people, those are the people in Evanston, very mixed up. They're very mixed up, the Black people. So it's a wonder that you have a lot of militants, that you have a lot of confidence.
I left there at like 17 and kind of just like, I'm never coming back. And I guess I meant it. Like, well, I'm never coming. I'm not like y'all. I'm not like y'all. Watch this. I'm gonna show you too.
Yeah,
that's funny. Leaving.
Why is it funny, Eve?
Well, because leaving home at whatever age you left home, there's going to be some life lessons, some human lessons there, and then what you said, Maria, about making sure that your daughters had a foundation that they could, call on. I think that that's an important example to give, while you had to learn how to make do wherever you were, find your tribe, find your family. We've talked about that, Dr. Winters, when you find your people, and then you're like, yeah, this feels like home. And then sometimes it is home, but then sometimes it was just something that you use to fill the void of home. And then, I don't know if we want to teach that as much as we want them to be prepared, for whatever the circumstances, but then, we want them to be comfortable. But when you're becoming an adult and you're growing into, I can do whatever I want to do, it's like, there's not going to be any comfort there. Not really, because you should be scraping your knee or knowing that the stove is hot. Some things you're supposed to have down pack. And I find that, Black Americans, even if we're all over the place, we're always finding home, or finding the familiarity of home wherever we're going, not necessarily trying to mingle with the new population or trying to make new friends as much as, maybe it is a new person, but it's familiar. I don't know if that makes sense, but
what is that?
Left at 17. I left at 17. Glad you left at 17. We're all people leaving home before you can, and then, well, we made it at our very big ages, so something worked. But then we all did something very different.
But I expected my life to be different. When I went away to university, I expected to be fighting in the next 3 or 4 years. I expected the Black community and the white community to be engaged in an active warfare. I mean, that's what I expected. In 1969, when I went away to university, I didn't expect to be going away to be among white folks and all that type of stuff. I expected we'd be there, but we was going to fight out being Champaign, and we'll be fighting. And it wasn't any fight. It wasn't a fight. What they did is that in 70 what? I went in 69 and 72, they found all the gay people they could find in Chicago and Philadelphia, and they brought them into the university. It was weird. I said, damn, how did they find all those people? And that stopped the Black Power movement at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. That stopped it, And they did. How could they recruit like that? Oh, that's right. You do have to come down for that interview. Yeah. So maybe that's it.
Maybe it's the interview. Evanston, when y'all were talking about Evanston, all I kept thinking about was their reparations thing that they had going. And then, they got $25,000 for a house. That everything about that just seemed very strange. And damn, Dr. Winters, you just opened my eyes a little bit, because if we kissing cousins in Evanston, then maybe things are a little backwards, and we might think it's progress, and it's not progress. It's the opposite of progress.
But it was weird. But as I said, I was working at Family Focus at that time, and it was kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting.
It's different. It's like one of those, kind of like, it's in essence, it's a very small town. So let me start by saying, North Chicago actually was founded by Black folks. It was, and to some, but then that's when the white folks came, bought up everything. And so even Evanston was actually initially founded by Black folks, and then just became so expensive that you kind of like whoever could afford to stay or whoever's grandmother owned their house or what have you. Even like my stepmother, her house used to be original farmhouse. Her ex-husband, who she was married to before my father, who's a Black man, he owned that house, that land, and everything. But it's like so small. It's just like they have one high school, but I will say it's very well funded because it's also next to a predominantly Jewish community too, across the way.
Yeah.
Their money goes into there as well. But it's just like a place where really like either you go and you get out and you don't come back, or you wait till you finish college, start your life, and you marry someone from somewhere else and you bring them back with you. Or you kind of just there, and the next year you're there, your kids there, your grandkids there. It's like a
But when I was there, like I said, it was kind of interesting. It was weird. It was a weird place. But again, like I said, is that I was a Black Power all my life, so I can't, I don't understand. I remember they wanted to give me a scholarship at the University of Colorado, and my coach told me I was Black Power because he didn't like me, so I didn't get to go to the University of Colorado. So hey,
No Colorado for you.
yeah. I wonder. I probably would have been a different person though.
I think we're all one decision away from a completely different life.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. That's how you get to heaven. It's right there. It's right in front of you too.
Well, I believe in reincarnation, so I'm not really popping up in heaven like that. Like I'm gonna stop by, and then I'm gonna come up with my next reason, and then I'm gonna shoot back down, whatever my next lesson is. But I really don't want to come back to Earth.
See, most people have more than one lifetime anyway, because you can split when you go to heaven. You probably your soul is up there now. You could be two people. I know my wife before she died, she said, she could talk to her guides and stuff. So she was into that stuff. And she said, right now we're in Italy. And she said, I'm your mistress. I said, damn, I wish I was him. I'm 60 something. I was 60 something that day. I said, damn, I wish I was him. At 60, it's not as good as being 20 or 30. I want to be him. But again, like I said, that's the beauty of it. That's the whole thing about even in terms, and now I didn't say this, even in terms of being Black Power, even in terms of having a Black identity, it is so wonderful to be able to do that. And then at the same time to be able to realize in a sense that you have control or power over who and what you are, which is impossible, because I remember I hated when Nellie Fuller said that the white man dominates everything. And then I've said this before. I say this all the time. But then I said, how could he dominate everything? Because I'm married. I was married. I married my wife, and the white man had nothing to do with that. And the white man couldn't have affected that. But then later I said, yes, he could have affected it, because if I wouldn't have had a job, I wouldn't have been able to keep my wife, maybe, And because you had to have a job to be able, in a sense, to have a family, And I don't know. A woman may put up with it for a while, but most of the time they don't. And see, that was the whole problem in terms of. I remember I wrote an article years ago. It was for psychology. It was an article for sociology, and I discussed the fact that the only time that a Black man really felt as though he was a Black man was doing sharecropping, because when you went to work on a sharecropping farm, the man brought the family, but outside of sharecropping, the family has always been based upon the employability or the employment of the woman, because women could get jobs in the urban area because they could be maids, they could be domestics, and very few brothers got to be chauffeur.
I wish I could just cut this part of what you're saying, like, and just put it in like a repeat reel, because the way I be wanting to pounce on folks for the commentary of what women signed up for, and I'm like, no, Black women, y'all wanted that was Black women never had an option. Y'all
never had an option.
No. We did not. We've always had to. There was not an option for them not to. How dare you get on here and use white male propaganda to then try to, but okay.
Because
sorry, I love what you're saying. But
make you a short of this part
Yes.
of the show. Put that on the channel.
Well, anyway, see, this is a calm. See, this is a calm part of the show. We're not really being militant. I was militant earlier today, talking with Sarnetta, but somehow the tape disappeared. So that was really powerful. So I don't know. I could be kind of a little bit more meek and mild. But the thing is,
that show you that y'all can't find, that the information must have been so heavy that it just broke the connection. I wish I knew what y'all were talking about. But
sometimes you'd be surprised. European, he can really do things. He can really make things disappear. You may think you have control, but he can make videos disappear if he wants them to. I thought it was a very good discussion what we were talking about. I was talking about the origin of the white man. And so then, but again, in a sense, so maybe it was some things that they didn't like that I said.
No, the origin of the white man. What do you mean? We've always been here. Cut the tape. But that's crazy. I was so Marie, on our show we were going to be talking about parenting, and then on this show we were talking about life lessons, and then put them together like butt cheeks, and we have a reality check with millennials adulting. And I think that, I like my Wednesday shows because it's like a bridge between generations. Like we kind of get a perspective that
you be trying to stump me. Tell the truth. You be trying to stump me. You be thinking of questions that that he can't discuss this.
No, well, you always surprise me because remember, I don't know if you got the text, but have y'all seen Doctor Strange?
The movie?
Yeah, the movie Doctor Strange came out a long time. All right, so there's this part in the movie where the big bad guy, Dormammu, he can do whatever, and then Doctor Strange has like a little watch, and then he gets there and he's like, I've come to make a bargain, and then Dormammu kills him, and then and he gets a chance to do it again. I've come to make a bargain. And then
I just love the fact that you just did this whole little, you made it so.
But right, that's what happened. And then it just keeps happening over and over again. It's this Groundhog's Day. And then I wonder if, some lessons are repeated because we don't get it, right? But then when y'all were talking about death, I was like, damn, is that why we keep coming back? Because we didn't get it, and then we get a chance to get it. But then, Dr. Winters, you messed me up a while ago, because what if last time I was a white man, and you were a white woman, and you were a white man,
But see, most of us,
I'm coming back with a white father and a black mother. So
I believe that most black people living today were white in their last incarnation.
Look, that's why. What does that sound? Very karmic.
Because the reason I say that is because they were. I think that we were white in our last incarnation because we wanted to be incarnated as black people at a time that wasn't as hard. I think a lot of us wasn't really built for that. Because see, it was hard back in the day. Nowadays, I look at my kids and others, and they, my son, my oldest son, the other day, we were talking last week, and he was talking about the fact of how these Indians, a lot of because I had him when I was going to university, and he was talking about how they used to discriminate against them and all that type of stuff, and how he felt that since he was black and the Indian boy from India was black, that they should be brothers, and he said they weren't. And I said, damn, now that's why we're looking at today, this delineation. But again, like I said, it's very interesting. But again, we had a nice talk tonight. Thank you for coming, Marie. We treated you nice. We didn't really put you on the spot. You didn't really have to talk some of the things that we really talk about. But again, thank you guys. Did you want to have a final comment, Eve, about what are human lessons?
Well, just Jeffrey in the chat, I think maybe he got lost somewhere in the conversation. Nobody's telling you these are things that can be proven, at least the last part of our conversation with regards to reincarnation and, you know, heaven and things that nobody's been able to prove. But a thought that I had, though, ancestral memories and then things that we remember that we weren't here for. I don't know if we were white in the past life as much as we could have been, maybe. Sure, it makes sense, you know, the karma of it all.
If you were punishment, or I mean, what if
right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it could be.
What if you got to? So, what if you were black previously and you did something good, so then you got to be black in the easier time?
Ooh.
Like, well, you know what?
But I don't.
So diligent and hardship. Now I'm gifting you with an easier life. It won't be as gritty as it was.
I think it was very complicated. I think a lot of things that we've been taught. For example, we always see the white man, in a sense, being able to just rape black women at a single bound and nothing happened. But it was 250. It was 250 slave rebellions. There were many white mansions burnt down by sisters after they were raped. They said, "You raped me, I'll burn your motherfucking house down." And so, see, the thing is that we've been taught a history of docility. We've been taught that these people were docile. We've been taught, in a sense, that the black woman had more agency than she really had, or maybe she had even more agency. You see, and you know, and so then, because the fact, in a sense, is that's why when I talk about history, I try to go into more detail, because see, on every plantation, they either had a man on a pole, a black man on a pole, or they had heads around the plantation rotting. When you entered the plantation, they had some heads hanging on the string until they just rotted. And so this is all about terror. But see, at the same time, me and some people I was working with, and I'm working with her. She's doing her dissertation, and her dissertation is on trauma, and we often have these discussions. And I always say that although black people suffered from a tremendous amount of trauma, maybe during slavery, somehow, in a sense, trauma has never stopped us from being progressive. Trauma has never stopped us from being bold. Trauma has never stopped us from challenging the unknown. And see, so that usually, in a sense, when you look at trauma as it's taught today, trauma is debilitating. When you have a lot of trauma, you can't get up. You can't, maybe when you had your divorces, you guys may have felt a little trauma, couldn't get out of bed for a while, all that type of good stuff.
I was in therapy for.
When I say good stuff, that's not good.
All that good stuff. He's like, all that traumatic stuff. You couldn't get up, lost down. You felt like dying, but you didn't, And look at you here now. Yeah,
but again, in a sense, and so you got through it. Where some people, they can't get through it. Some people, they can't overcome it. And see, this is the beauty of establishing who you are, what you are, and where you're going. And that is the wonderfulness. But again, like I said, is that this is supposed to be about the human lesson. And I think the basic human lesson is what? The basic human lesson is that we're human. The basic human lesson is that we're trying to be who we think we are, but we're all in the process of becoming, because who knows what is actually, in a sense, being human. Because to me, I believe all of us between 16 and 17, 15 through 17, between the ages of 15 and 17, we decide who we're going to be the rest of our lives. And that's who you are. It was sometime during that period that you said, I like this. Just like I always think of 1967, I was 17, I had fun. It was a beautiful time, And so then I think that I'm still that 17-year-old, even though I'm 74.
I feel 19 all the time. I don't I'm always 19. I'm always at the I'm always at the start of something. Like I got married at 19, like I had my first kid at 20, but I'm always like at the intersection of something new, and there's that childlike curiosity that's like, okay, well, what happens if I do this thing or blah, blah, blah. And really, I'm just getting older. And that's the thing. I do really believe that people they get older. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they grow up or that they change, or even too, it's like you still feel like that little person inside. Like there's this little person and she's out doing these adult things, but like I'm always like surprised about something like, oh, I've been seeing the same physician for 10 years. How mature is that? Or, it's just like, all these people weird, like I have auto draft and I didn't cut it off yet. And the money's there. Oh,
she's there.
But the thing is, this is that we never grow up because what is a grown up? What is grown up? Because as I said, at 17, between 17 and 19, you decide who you are. And that's who you're going to be the rest of your life. You're going to still have that personality. Some people in a sense will cover it up. Most of the time you're going to hide it, and most people will never even know it. That's one of the reasons why it's very difficult sometimes for you to be able to really relate to some people who feel that they're an adult. A person who feels that he or she is an adult, these people are lost. And the reason they're lost is that they're living a lifestyle that has no real reality. They're living a lifestyle that they even imagine that the adult should live. And so then that's why they're very lonely. That's why they're unable to find themselves. That's why they can't be the authority. You know what I mean, Eve?
I like that. That's a human lesson for people.
That is, I think recently someone asked me, they're like, so what's it like being in your 40s, or what's the difference? And I remember being in my 20s feeling like I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be doing this and doing that and and all these things. And I was like, I feel like being 40 for me is really just accepting I don't know everything. I do not have all the answers. I'm going to be blindsided somewhere in there. And guess what? It's okay. Like, and the sky isn't going to fall because I don't know what tomorrow brings. The sky isn't going to fall because I'm unsure of something. In fact, there's going to be a plethora of things I think it comes to that, like the conclusion, like, yeah, you really just don't know what to expect. And that's okay. And like, you're not going to die. Like, for real? I actually felt like I needed to know these things in my 30s and in my 40s. I'm like, you don't know. It might even change. Like, I don't like, but don't stress out about it. That's all I got.
It might change, but I don't know. Life is complicated. Life is interesting. I don't really know, because the thing is that I see the world from my own perspective, and I understand in the sense is that you can only be who you are, and whoever you are is just who you are. But I still believe at 1967, life stopped for me. In 1967, I like soul music. In 1967, I felt very, very confident, and I still feel that today. But thank you, and send me that topic for next week, Eve. And I know you're going to try to stump me, but we'll see what happens. Good night, everybody.
Good night. It was a pleasure.
Okay.